First of all, yes, there is an issue with the UK. It's their pride and joy. ARM was invented there. It's been there for, I don't know, 20-ish years, 20 plus years now, developing those chips. But I think the bigger problem with NVIDIA buying ARM is that many companies that use ARM technology, Qualcomm, even Apple uses ARM technology, others as well, might see a threat in NVIDIA trying to leverage the ARM technology for their own use and not give it to the rest of the industry. The reason ARM has done so well and is so popular is because once ARM produces something, everyone can have it. It's open. It's not, as long as you license it, I can get it from you. You'll give me a license. Now the question now becomes, and no one really has a competitive advantage in the sense that if I'm licensing ARM technology, I'm licensing ARM technology. It's the same technology, and then it's whatever I do with it. But if NVIDIA buys ARM and then perhaps decides that for a competitive reason, there's some technology they get from ARM that they don't want to release to the rest of the world, to Qualcomm or to Apple or to a variety of other users of ARM technology, will they keep it for themselves? That could be an issue. The other problem that I see that could arise is that it's not clear that all the regulators will approve it. Will China allow NVIDIA to take over ARM? Because ARM is very critical to your industries as well. I don't know if this all works out in the end, whether it really completes. I think they're trying to make a marriage that is in some ways perhaps a forced marriage. It may not be all as smooth as they think it's going to be. If Intel had tried to acquire ARM, I'm sure that wouldn't have happened. That wouldn't have allowed that to happen. But NVIDIA is not it's not in the same market as ARM, nor is AMD today in the same market as Xilinx. So they're not direct competitors, and that would make it smoother. But NVIDIA wants to also they want to compete with Intel as well. They want to compete more broadly. Today, they're basically a GPU company. They want to have more CPU capability. They want to have more systems capability. Now, NVIDIA's tried this in the past and has not been successful. 8 or 10 years ago, I can't remember exact date, they bought a company called Icera, which I believe was also out of the UK, that built modems for cell phones. And what NVIDIA wanted to do is they wanted to compete with Qualcomm. That never went very well for them. It just didn't happen. NVIDIA also talked about ARM, building ARM chips. By the way, AMD built ARM-based chips for a while for their server. There's a lot of experimentation going on in the industry. As far and to get back to your point, which is, will it be smoother for NVIDIA and ARM and AMD and Xilinx? Probably, but it's also not a guarantee that the acquisition will be successful long term. They haven't been able to get to 7 nanometers when the rest of the industry is almost at 5. We're not quite at 5 yet, but we're getting there very quickly. TSMC has done a terrific job of getting the new technology for the customers. AMD, of course, Xilinx, but Qualcomm, most of the people that are on ARM-based solutions, NVIDIA, all are using TSMC. Samsung's done a very good job as well. So Intel has really got a problem. Now, Intel has mitigated some of that problem by building new transistors, by building better interconnects, by engineering what they have in 10 nanometers, but it still doesn't solve the problem for them. So a couple of things that Intel is going to do. Number one is, we talked about Altera. Altera was not on an Intel process either. Intel does have chips today that are running at TSMC. I think that will continue. I'm not sure that their primary CPUs will get down to, it will be outsourced to TSMC, but their process engineering group has a lot of work to do. One of the things that Intel is doing, though, that I think is going to be, that's going to pay off for them very well, is that they're building a lot of things around on-chip interconnects so that I can use other components and build an SoC with those other components embedded on that substrate. So they've got EMIB, they've got Foveros. They can actually take older chips and marry them with newer chips and make a new system on a silicon, basically, and sell that. So that actually helps them a lot in building out more substantial subsystems, but they've still got to get their process in order. And it looks like it's going to take them another year to do that, maybe longer, and that's a real problem for them. So we have to be careful with frequency, right? I can build a very fast transistor and do a very bad design on the system on the chip. It'll run very fast, it just won't run very well. So frequency alone doesn't tell us how good a chip is. There's a lot more to it. How good is the transistor design? How good is the integration of all the components with memory? How good is the internal bus? There are a lot of components that go in that. What you get when you go to the smaller nanometer sizes, this processes, is generally you get better power. So I can do more processing for the same amount of power. And that's why people keep going downsize. It's harder to build those chips. So you have more defects. So they're more expensive to build, at least until you get it right. And there's a lot of other issues around that. But just because, Qualcomm builds a 7 nanometer mobile chip, and I don't know, MediaTek builds a 10 nanometer chip, doesn't necessarily mean that the Qualcomm chip will be better than the MediaTek chip. It probably will be for other reasons, but it's not just because of the process and not just because of the frequency.